Do you ever feel like you are stale in your job, or like you are losing relevance, or like you are not competitively advantaged? Today, we are going to talk about the importance of continuous learning in the workplace and some easy ways to go about doing it. First of all, the question often comes to me, and I have a lot of heart for this question, is what is the importance of continuous learning in the workplace? You know, as a professor and as a professional, continuous learning was something that I really value and that I questioned for the longest time. Further, what I noticed is that there are a lot of people who, once they get into their jobs, they get comfortable in their jobs, they stop learning altogether, and they stop enrolling in some of the workplace offerings for continuous learning and improvement. And so today I want to talk to you a little about the value in continuing to learn, and then we can talk about some easy ways to go about doing that. The first thing that is really important when it comes to continuous learning in the workplace, or the reason that it is so important, is because if we continue to learn in our careers, we actually exercise new neural networks, which allow that you are not just continually learning, but you're continually developing yourself and you're continually improving your brain. And so the first part of why we would care and why we would continue to learn in the workplace and through our careers is so that we continue to exercise those new neural networks so that we become our best brained selves. The next reason that it is so advantageous to continue to learn in our careers is because learning actually helps improve our neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is a big word for something very simple, and exactly like it sounds, it's like the plasticity of your neurons, or said differently, how fast you can assimilate new information into existing knowledge networks. What it means is that as we lose the ability to be neuroplastic, we lose the ability to learn. And so continuous learning makes us better at being able to take in new information and assimilate it into existing networks. So it's almost like practice makes perfect, but the idea is that as we continue to try to learn, we actually continue to improve our neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is in fact one of the key factors that thwarts cognitive aging. So I don't know if you're like me, but no one wants to age, and no one wants to age faster than they have to. One of the best ways to go about thwarting cognitive aging is to keep your neuroplasticity up. And what's the best way to do that? But to continue to learn lifelong. Another reason that lifelong learning and that continuous learning in the workplace is so important is because it increases your importance and your relevance. What we see and what the research shows is that people who continue to learn and who try to continue to learn new things, they are actually valued by their peers more, they get promoted more, and they are much more relevant to the organization because they stay fresher. So if you want to increase your profile at work, you really want to bulk out that CV, continuing to learn is also a really critical component for that. Continuous learning in the workforce and throughout your career also improves your competencies. As you continue to hone the skill sets that you might have forgotten over time, what happens is that competence increases, your ability to believe in yourself increases, and over time, what research shows is that your confidence in your career, in your role function, in your skills actually increases as well. So continuous learning doesn't just improve how it is that you perform, it also improves how confident you are in how you can perform. One of the other reasons that continuous learning is so important in the workforce and throughout your career is that it actually allows not just increases in neuroplasticity, but in your ability to creatively solution problems. And so what we see is people who continue to learn aren't just more creative, they're a lot more innovative in how they go about things, which of course increases their value to the organization and increases how well they are able to get to solutions faster. Lifelong learning or continuous learning in your career increases your neuroplasticity, which increases your ability to be creative and innovative, but it also increases your ability to do what we call reframing, or that is seeing existing or old problems through new lenses. And so as you develop your ability to learn, you actually develop your ability to reframe existing problems or to see existing issues through new perspectives and through new frameworks. So you become a much greater asset to your organization when you continue to learn, which of course improves not just your role function, but how likely it is you are to get a promotion, and then ultimately how much of an asset you are to the organization that you're working for. Okay, so we've covered how it is so important to continue to learn and why you should do that. Then the question becomes, well, how should I continue to learn? I'm going to tell you that there's really no wrong answer to this. You should continue to learn any way possible. If for you that means attending courses, that means picking up a new trade, a new skill, going online, taking online courses, whatever it means for you, there's no wrong way to continue to learn. There's one thing. The only catch here is that what we often say when it comes to learning is that no pain, no gain. If you are not continuing to kind of feel the burn, almost like in the gym, then you're probably not learning. And so what we forget from childhood is how challenging and frankly uncomfortable learning can be. And so what I want you to do when you think about lifelong learning, continuous learning, about how to improve not just your own CV, but your ability to thwart cognitive aging, one of the best things you can do for yourself is to make sure that frankly you feel a little uncomfortable when you go about learning. The next thing that is really important when it comes to learning and continuous learning through your career is to get more sleep. I know that this sounds a little counterintuitive, but what we know is that in fact, contrary to popular belief, you are not, when you go to bed, you are not turning your brain off. That's when your brain comes alive. And what we know is that most learning does not happen in the classroom or in the boardroom, it's happening in the bedroom. In fact, while you're sleeping and dreaming is when your brain reassimilates, renegotiates neural networks, and actually puts together all the learnings of the day into your brain in the form of knowledge. In fact, knowledge is really just the memory of having learned something. And so, as you continue to learn, one of the best ways to ensure that the learning sticks is to make sure that you're getting really good night's sleep. How do you go about learning so that it sticks? Here's another trick we use. Neuroscientists know that the best way to make sure that you remember what you learn is to learn it, not just to know it, but to learn it to teach it. If you can learn it when you're actually going through understanding something new, if you think about it in a way that is almost as if you're going to have to repeat it, as opposed to just knowing it for yourself, then you're much more likely to actually assimilate it into new neural networks and remember it. We don't know exactly why this is, but effectively the idea is if you're learning it just to know it, you might forget it. But if you task yourself with the responsibility of having to reteach it, that's when you do the deep reprogramming that allows you to remember the information. Finally, if you want to make sure that the way that you're learning something is in order to ingrain it really deeply in your neural networks, the best way to go about doing that is to make sure that you have a pen and paper and that you're actually writing it down. What we say in brain science is that writing it down is like the magical act. What it allows is that you have to write in a shorthand that is itself the encoding process. You know this yourself when, as an example, you've made a list for the grocery store, okay? And when you get to the grocery store, you realize you forgot your list. Can you not picture your list? It's usual, and what the research shows is that most people can in fact remember almost everything on the list because it's the act of writing it down that is the process of encoding the actual information. So, if you want to learn in such a way that you are going to be more effective, you are going to increase your neuroplasticity, you are going to thwart cognitive aging, you are going to remember more and be a smarter person, make sure that you're actually physically writing it down by hand. So, thank you so much for watching today, and congratulations! By watching this video, you learned just a little bit more about how it is that you can improve your brain and become your best brain self. I have a question. What are you interested in learning more about when it comes to your brain? Comment below, let us know, and we will record a video exactly about that topic. Thank you, like, subscribe, we'll see you tomorrow.